best-selling author of Profit First and Fix This Next, and many other amazing books, including his upcoming September release, Get Different, all of which can be found among the most entertaining and useful books in your favorite bookstore, or find him at motorbikemike.com. Today, we'll be asking Motorbike Mike how Profit First can create permanent profitability in your contracting business and paradoxically improve your bonding ability while still taking your appropriate profit first as the owner of your contracting company. So here on the Contractor Success Forum, we discuss financial strategies for running a more profitable, successful construction business. And I'm so excited. You should be too. So why don't you go ahead and share our little show with your friends right now so you won't miss a thing on this amazing episode. So check out our show notes below and our show page, contractorsuccessforum.com. In addition to Mike, our three long-term construction industry professionals are Wade Carpenter with Carpenter and Company CPAs, helping contractors nationwide become permanently profitable for over 30 years. Stephen Brown, a construction bond agent with McDaniel Whitley Bonding and Insurance Agency for over 30 years, experienced in underwriting and placing bonds for you as a contractor. And I am Rob Williams, your profit strategist with Iron Gate Entrepreneurial Support Systems, driving profit in contractors' businesses with decades of vertical integration as a contractor, manufacturer, aviator, and financial strategist in the construction industry. Woo, Mike, welcome to our show. We're so happy to have you here.
My
Hey,
golly gee,
I just gave blood yesterday. I might
Wow.
pass out. I'm not sure.
I love that you use alliteration. You're like, it's the magnificent Mike Michalowicz. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, what are other alliterative words? You could have used like the marginal Mike Michalowicz. The malfeasance, Mike Michalowicz. Like, there's
we
always
got all that, and the
M's.
PPPs and all these amazing things that we learned together on our trip last week with you and I and Wade and our other mastery members to Arizona and the Grand Canyon in person.
I did want to jump in on that. Mike got so scared of bears there, me and Rob had to pick him up and carry him out of there. So
we produced the most bizarre video, I think, of all time there.
Check out the show notes to see this craziness. To see Mike Michalowicz at high altitudes and what that does to your crazy Contractor Success Forum brains.
Well, it's great to be here. I appreciate it.
We're glad to have you here. So, man, we're getting our bonding guru, Stephen Brown, here. He was my bonding agent when I was a contractor. So he helped me with a lot of different things. Well, what do you want to get from Mike?
I really appreciate it. Mike, thanks for coming on and talking to us. The main thing is that my job is to get contractors bonds, and I put a package together to sell to different bonding companies. So they'll say, yes, we will approve those bonds. And so I put a financial package. They want to see working capital and net worth in their company. But I was hoping you could tell me a little bit about how Profit First can help with that. And also, if you could paint a picture for me of what it would look like to one of my contractors if they engage a Profit First professional to help them get their system going.
Yeah, I don't know too much about contractors, but one of my closest friends owned a very sizable company. They're doing about $250 million in revenue, doing building construction, commercial construction. And they got in a trap, and I can share it a little bit later. But when it comes to the health of any organization, the number one determinant of your health is your profitability. If you can show sustained profit, it is unarguable. And I'm saying cash profit, like money in the bank. If you can show money accumulating month in, month out, year in, year out, it is unarguable. And sadly, there's companies like Enron who show a profit that aren't profitable. So there's a distinct difference between an accounting profit and a cash profit. And the Profit First system is a cash management system that shows how to achieve consistent profitability. And when it comes to borrowing money, my experience is real simple, that when you have money, you're in a much better position to borrow money than when you don't. People that provide money want a surety. They're in business too. They're not handing out cash. They're looking to make a return on it. So they are running analysis and metrics to say this loan won't go bad, that I'm going to get money back off of this. So it's very calculated. And it's undeniable if you're consistently profitable that you can pay back a loan, or you're more likely than anyone else. And that's why profitable businesses that are consistently profitable, not one-time pot shots, but they show a history of perpetual profit, consistently get the best loans, get the best rates and the best deals, and are the most viable in the
I'm
market.
glad you said that, Mike, because bonding companies, they don't want to know that you can finish a job. They assume you can do the project. They want to know you can make a profit consistently. And how they determine that is everything.
Oh, totally, right? So I'll just share a story about my friend. I'm not going to disclose their name, but a very sizable company in the Northeast, $250 million. And within two major projects, it collapsed the company. They actually went bankrupt, and it was a sad day. They are trying to phoenix the business and do it in a new form, new flavor. But sadly, they weren't measuring profitability. They were doing the cash flow game. And I see this in so many businesses. That one project was actually feeding the next one. And they needed to land more and more projects to pay off the losses that was happening. And the only way to sustain that, it becomes a little bit of almost like a pyramid. And it wasn't a pyramid, but basically you're banking on bigger projects to trigger the cash flow to cover up for the losses that you have in the past. It makes you blind to. You don't even realize you're struggling with these other projects because you see the cash flow going. But they couldn't sustain, they couldn't get a project that was big enough to cover the last major project. And that's when the whole thing came crumbling down. So we got to be very careful about that. And this is why what Wade's doing, what Rob's doing, why Profit First professionals are so needed is you need an expert in there that can show you how to be profitable, but not just profit saying, hey, at the end of the year, is there any money left over? That's not profit. Profit is not an event, meaning an eventuality. It's got to be baked into every transaction. Every raw material, every item that you bring on board is a profit baked into it. And that's what a Profit First professional does. They get to the molecular level to ensure there's consistent profitability. And when you're winning profit every single day, you will absolutely have profit at the end of the year and every year going forward.
That's great. Robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's
I'm sure you've seen that, Stephen,
all the
right?
time. And it's terrifying. And, a lot of times you don't see it until you have the right accounting information in front of you. Wade, the contractors that can't produce some pretty accurate reports, and you're not getting data from your project managers, live data as to costs that are being incurred. Rob, you were talking about a situation like that. So it just doesn't end, and you just have to be aware of it.
Yeah, those numbers, the accounting data is critical. And we have to realize most business owners don't have the propensity to dig into those numbers. We take shortcuts. We say, well, I got money in the bank. I got money. I don't have to worry about that. I'll let someone else worry about that. So I have two things you need to do. First of all, changing our habits are very hard. It's very hard that if you don't look at numbers to all of a sudden overnight to be a numbers guy. It is important, step one, to bring an expert who is a numbers person. That's why I'm such a proponent for Profit First professionals. Secondly, do what's called channeling. It's very hard to change a behavior, but we can channel a behavior to get the results we want. If you're the type of person who logs in your bank account, see what the balance is, and you're making decisions based upon the cash you see there, the Profit First system is designed for that. We're going to carve up that money, pre-allocate it at your bank to different accounts with different intended use. So this way, when you get a tranche of money in that you're going to use to buy, say, your materials, well, you're going to have a materials account, and a portion of that money, percentage-wise, will go in there. So now you know exactly what's available to purchase your materials. If you don't have enough money in there, that's a call to your Profit First professional. Say, why don't I have enough money? Am I not allocating properly? Am I not putting enough margin in for the materials? And it starts triggering this conversation. With the contractors that I know, sadly, that conversation happens when the business is collapsing. My friend, they said, oh my gosh, what did we do wrong? And that's not the time to have the conversation when you're 6 feet under. What you should do is have that conversation today. And what forces that conversation, I believe, is Profit First. Because when you start allocating money to its intended use before spending it, it forces that hard conversation of saying, we don't have enough money for this purpose. What's wrong? Not enough margin or something like that. We're not pricing right. Those are the things that we have to discuss, today.
Stephen, we're probably in a big boom right now. So we are going to be hit. There's surge. There's so much demand for real estate right now and projects behind. So your clients, we're going to be boom, 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 hitting these things. So we're going to very soon see some collapses. So trying to get these contractors and help them not make that mistake. This is the time that we've got to hit that, and they need to make their decisions. You talk about that a little bit if you want to.
You're right. Those decisions have to be made. And then I wanted to ask you, can you work with the CFOs of these construction companies and the owner? Contractors like to build. And that's one problem,
Yeah.
Mike, is understanding that you're going to have overhead expenses. They just hate that. They just want to build. And the only thing that concerns me is I want them to know how easy it'll be to engage your services.
Yeah, what's interesting is many owners I talk to, and this is industry agnostic, any business. I say, how's business? They said, well, this year we did say $1 million in revenue. And then the next question they say is, but I don't know where my million is. Like literally for many business owners, that's the level of consideration. And honestly, I'm there too. Like when I make a certain amount of money, I think inherently that's how much I'm going to take. What I make is what I take. And of course that doesn't translate. And it's so obvious it doesn't. But when I'm running a business, I like to do the things that I like to do, create things. So bringing in sophisticated talent behind you to go into the molecular level is very important. But at the same point, as a business owner, we're going to make improper and rash decisions if we simply see a lump of cash and say, oh, this is how much cash I have to do whatever. Because we'll default to our next call to action, like the next feeling we have. Oh, I need to get some new equipment for my business in order to do these builds. Oh, we just had $100,000 come in. Perfect. I got $100,000 to buy that truck or whatever that gear is. And then we're not considering what that money was really intended for. Buying materials, paying labor, all these other elements. So profit first, again, it'll help you pre-allocate money. $100,000 comes in, it's not just one bucket of 100,000. There's buckets allocated out. So there's say 20,000 going to your labor, 40,000 toward materials, $10,000 toward equipment purchases, and so forth. And when you carve it up this way, we look at that equipment purchase account and we're like, oh, there's only 10,000. I can't buy the thing I need yet. It starts triggering this concept of how do I work? How do I still get this done? Maybe I got to rent the equipment for now. Maybe I can work with another contractor and we can do a barter deal where we swap something. But it starts a better conversation. And so that's why we need a system to really channel our natural behavior of thinking that any money is all the money we need for any next intention, and supplement that with an expert. I think it's very unfair to expect business owners to become excellent in accounting. And I hear it all the time. I hear, oh, you own a business, you got to be good at the accounting. You got to know these numbers inside and out. I think that's an unfair expectation. I'm not, I wasn't the best at math in high school. Now I also have to be the best at math. It's just not my interest. It's not what I'm capable at. But I can hire that math teacher. I can hire that expert and have them teach me through it or just give me their observations. So we got to surround ourselves with the appropriate talent, but at least have a simple system first to give you the triggers of when to ask questions.
The day-to-day decisions is what I thought was the biggest difference to me. I found Mike in Profit First because I had a client that is a contractor and he's making so much profit. He kept purchasing all these assets and different things and building some things, amazing profits like he'd never seen before. And then it came time to pay his taxes and he couldn't do it. And so I went to my friend, a Vistage coach. I was like, man, I need budgeting. I'm looking at Dave Ramsey and I'm looking at, nothing wrong with Dave, but this is business. Yeah. And I'm looking at these things. And finally he said, this Profit First guy, I'd never heard of Mike. And I found it and I'm reading that. And I'm like, gosh, if we had it. And I thought about the decades of my construction experience, and I had been trying to create what he did. I was so close, for years. And I was like, wow, this is exactly what I was trying to figure out. I had all my projections and my numbers, but when you're out there on the job site, it's that spur of the moment decision, because I had the accounting and I had the CFOs and projecting that out. But I'm like, oh, hell, I got 100,000 in my account and I need this. I'll figure it out later. I'm buying it right now. And then I'm going to go back and figure out how to unravel that.
You've got your MBA. You're a master of business. Why couldn't you figure that out?
Because I couldn't look out the front windshield. I was looking back at everything and then I couldn't process it. I was too busy in day to day trying to get this built and worrying about this subcontractor, getting this material in. And it's amazing now when you see this, and immediately, like last week, Mike, when I was going to see you, I didn't rent a car because it was $750. It's normally like $150 because there are no cars out there. My
Right.
OpEx, I was looking at that, and I know there's money in the other ones, but my brain said, I got to figure something else out.
I love that. I love and hey, I saw you were at every
I
activity.
got
so
there,
you
whether it was on
clearly figured it out.
foot or hitching a ride or something.
That's the power of the system, is that for your category of decision, there's a category or account associated with it. And then we link those together. We start working within the confines of that. What I did, and I continue to do, is I study behavioral economics and human behavior. A lot of discussion around numbers is very logical. It's great. And Spock would nail this stuff. But we got to think about the Captain Kurtz, the ones shooting from the hip that are saving Star Trek. What we need to do is channel our behavior. There's a thing called the primacy effect. And the primacy effect is when we see something first, we put more significance in it versus things that come after it. So in the book, actually, I give a sequence of words. Like if I said the word evil, villain, neutral, good, angel, if I said in that sequence, I'd say, what do you think of this person? Evil, villain. The propensity we have is to say, oh, that's a bad person. And maybe they're the anti-angel. But if we take the exact same set of words and we flip them over and say angel, good, it ends with villain and evil. Now this is a good person fighting evil, possibly. So our mind, even though it's the exact same word, so logically they're indistinguishable, but behaviorally we distinguish them because we put more significance in the immediate and the first. Well, that's true for money too. When we have a desire, I feel we need to get new computer equipment. I feel we got to hire some more labor. Whatever that feeling is, that's now the primacy effect. We're putting significance in it. So we look at our cash and say, oh, I can support this. This is just what we needed. This just works out. But we don't look at the rest of the sentence, and that's what the problem is.
I know you started to mention this a minute ago. Rob and I actually did a talk for a trade association yesterday. It was 2 hours that we did. And the executive director wanted us to talk about like the construction bubble, like 2008, what happened with COVID. And one thing I love your take on, profit works really well when things are good, but it also works really well when things start tanking.
I probably got more emails in my life during the COVID pandemic, particularly from businesses that were immediately affected by it, retail stores, restaurants, pouring in saying, this has saved me or this is saving me. And some of those businesses said, wow, so you must have been doing Profit First for years now and you saved up all this money. I'm so happy it served you. I said, no, I started Profit First like a week ago or a month ago. I'm like, but that means you have no reserves. Well, you see what happened is Profit First is a percentage-based system. So it dynamically adjusts to the current cash flow. If I'm making $1,000 a day and all of a sudden it drops to $100 a day, the percentages stay the same. On $1,000 a day, I may be allocating 10% toward CapEx or capital expenditures. So $1,000 comes in, I have $100. But now my income drops to $100 all of a sudden on a cash flow basis. 10% is $10 goes to that CapEx. So we immediately start to curtail our spend on CapEx because there's less funds available. That's the power of a percentage-based system. We are carving up the pie the same way, but every single day the pie of income adjusts in size. So it works dynamically with it.
Stephen, does that kind of help resonate with you some?
It does. You have to understand the concepts behind this system. And the nuts and bolts of it are what you have to leave to the professional to help you do. The concepts appear to me to be very simple, but getting them all implemented, you just need to have some experience, don't you?
Yeah, there's definitely a different definition for simple versus easy. And to your point, Stephen, yeah, it is a simple system, but it does not mean it's easy. Once you get under the basic umbrella of the system, there's going to be detail. And every industry is different. When it comes to construction versus a pizza shop, there are elements that need to be different. There's perishable inventory versus non-perishable inventory. There's always different considerations. So it's in the nuts and bolts, to your point, where it can get a little bit hairy. What I challenge people to do, though, is you can and should get started at the simple level immediately. Get yourself to the bank today. Don't waste time on this. It's the analogy of growing a tree. The best time to plant a tree was 40 years ago. The second best time is today. We got to get to the bank today and get these accounts set up. Then you hire a professional to help you guide through the molecular details. But if you don't get to the bank, if you don't get these accounts set up, you're just waiting to plant that seed.
Yeah, kind of the last thing, Wade, having a good accountant is so important because Profit First is not an accounting system. It is a behaviorally based cash management system. So Wade, in preparing the numbers to be able to come up with what those allocations should be, being able to be an expert and then preparing and adjusting that, you've got to look back at those accounting numbers because that's going to be critical. Can you give us just a little bit on that, Wade, while we've got Mike here, and maybe one more follow-up?
From my perspective, you can't just look at your P&L. You got to look at your balance sheet and your cash flow statement. And so,
yeah, that's the problem and the opportunity, right? These documents, they work together, but most entrepreneurs can't read the tea leaves. They look at a cash flow statement, and I do. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. Profit First is a trigger for conversation with that professional. So when you implement Profit First and you say, wow, we're not cash flowing right, something doesn't feel right, I don't have enough money in this account, something's wrong, you call your accountant immediately and say, listen, can you interpret the cash flow statement for me and tell me what's going on? Because the course to correction are in those documents. Profit First is just the call to action. It's the guardrails for kind of racing down the highway. But the accounting system gives you all the information you need to make the right decisions. I have a call actually literally this morning about a half hour prior to us connecting with my accountant. And I do it every 2 weeks. And what we do is we sit down, we go over the cash flow of Profit First, and then he helps me interpret all the details in the cash flow statement, balance sheet, P&L, and also KPIs. He's rattling off things like, oh, the operating cash ratio is off. I don't know what the F that is, but I do know it's important. And that's why I hired this guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's great. And I know Mike's got something else coming up on the top of the hour. So this has been an amazing show. And tying all that together just in a few minutes has been really, really, really helpful for us. So
yeah, thanks a lot, Mike. I've learned a lot more about your system.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure being with you.
I hope everybody has gotten a lot out this. Follow Mike if you can, motorbikemike.com. If you can't spell Mike Michalowicz.com. Yeah. And look at our show notes. It's all in our show notes. So keep following us and come see us on the contractorsuccessforum.com. So thanks for being with us today. And thank you so much, Mike, Stephen, Wade, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, guys.